Okay, so in this lesson you're going to learn how to solve linear equations containing fractions. And so here's the linear equation with fractions in it, and the approach that you want to use is you want to clear the fractions first. Okay, so you want to clear the fractions first. So we're going to use these steps as we used in all the other examples. So the first thing you're going to do, and notice it says if fractions exist, clear the fraction multiplying both sides by the LCD. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about all these other steps also. All right, so I have fractions here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to clear the fractions. So I want to get rid of those fractions. So my denominators are 3, 2, and 4. So the least common denominator, the least common multiple, and always use the least. It makes things so much easier for you if you use the least common denominator. So the least common denominator of 3, 2, and 4 is 12. So 3 goes into 12, 2 goes into 12, and 4 goes into 12, and that's the least. You could have used 24, but that's not the least. It would have made things a little bit more difficult for you. The numbers would have been larger for you to deal with. So always use the least. It makes things easier for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to multiply both sides by 12. So notice on the left side there are two terms. Okay, so I'm going to need to put parentheses here. So you're going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this over. So 4/3 x minus a half equals, and then 1/4. So you're going to multiply this side by 12, and you're going to multiply this side by 12. So I use the multiplication property of equality. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. What you would, if you multiply one side by 12, you got to multiply the other side by 12. And then I'm going to next step. Notice I introduced parentheses. So now I'm going to clear the parentheses using the distributive property. So I'm going to multiply both sides. Multiply both terms by 12 here. So I get 12 times 4/3 x minus 12 times a half equals 1/4 times 12. And then I'm going to reduce. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 12 4 times, and now I have 4 times 4x, which is 16x, minus over here, 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 12 is 6, so I get minus 6, equal, and then here 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 12 is 3, so I get 3. And so now I have an equation that's manageable. I can now easily deal with this equation. There are no fractions. So the solutions here, though, keep that in mind. All those things I've written are equivalent because I use the properties of equality. So those are equivalent. All those are equivalent. So the solution to this will be the solution to this as well. Okay, so to find a solution, I've got to keep on going until I get x by itself. So that's a process, the solving process. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and so when I combine like terms, I get 16x equal 6 and 3 is 9, and then dividing both sides by 16, I found the solution. So the solution to this equation is going to be 9/16, and then reduce if you can. In this case, I cannot reduce. All right, so that's number 1. Okay, let's look at number 2. So number 2, I have this. Here, number 2. I have 3 fifths y plus 1/2 equals a negative 9/10. So 3 fifths y plus a half equals a negative 9/10. All right, so again, you got to find the least common denominator. Least common denominator. So I have 5, 2, and 10. So the smallest number that 5, 2, and 10 will go into evenly is 10. So least common denominator is 10. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. Okay? So you notice that on this side, though, there are two fractions, two terms. On this side, there's just one. So I need to put this one in parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite this over. I'm just writing this over. So 3 fifths y plus 1/2 equals negative 9/10. So I'm going to multiply this side, the whole side, by 10. I'm going to multiply this side by 10. All right. And then I'm going to distribute. So I get 10 times 3 fifths y plus 10 times a half equals negative 9/10 times 10. So remember, if you're doing this correct, like if you are doing this correct, then what's going to happen is that since I'm multiplying both sides by the least common denominator, what's going to happen is that these denominators will all be factors of 1. All right, so that's a purpose, to get this to be a 1 right here. And now I can, because look, 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 10 is 2. And 2 times 3y is 6y, plus 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 10 is 5, so you have 5 times 1 is 5. equal. And then 10 to the 10 is 1, 10 to the 10 is 1, negative 9 times 1 is negative 9. All right, and so now the solution to this would be the solution to this as well, because those are equivalent. And so to get y by itself, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5 from both sides. And so when I do that, I get 6y, this is 0 here, equal a negative 5 and a negative 9 is a negative 14. Dividing both sides by 6 to get y by itself, 1 times y is y, equal negative 14 6, which reduced is negative 7/3. Okay, so y equals a negative 7/3. Now, if you want to write this improper fraction as a mixed number, you can. So remember 3 into 7. So 3 into 7 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Remainder 1. So you get 2 and 1/3. In this case, though, it's negative 2 and 1/3. Okay? So that's number 2. Not a very difficult process. Fairly simple. So the whole point is to not deal with fractions. So to not deal with fractions, we're going to multiply both sides by the least common denominator. All right, let's look at number 3. So number 3, we have 1/4 x minus a half equals 3/5 x minus 2. All right, so same idea. The denominators are 4, 2, 5, and this is considered a fraction because I can write as 2 over 1, right? So the least common denominator, 4, 2, and 5, and 1. What do you think that is? So what? Let's see. Let's look at the. So those are all 5. Let's see. What's that? 20. You all agree? 20. 4 goes into 20. 2 goes into 20. 5 goes into 20, and that's the smallest, right? Okay, so that's the least. So the least common denominator is 20. All right. So but notice though I have 2 terms on each side, so I'm going to need to put parentheses on both sides now. So we're going to rewrite this over, just like this. Now remember, I used the least, by the way, so if someone had used 40, that's fine. 40 is fine. It's just that it's so much easier if you use the least. So that's why we call it the least common denominator. 3/5 x minus 2. So put that in parentheses. I'm going to put that in parentheses because there are technically 4 things you see here. 1/4 x, a negative 1/2, 3/5 x, and a negative 2. All right, so multiply both sides by 20. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So now, though, I've got to go ahead now and clear the parentheses. So I'm going to use distributive property, just like this. So I get 20 times 1/4 x minus 20 times 1/2 equals, on the other side, 20 times 3/5 x minus, and then 20 times 2. Now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD is to get these factors down here to be 1s. That's the whole purpose. And you can, because I multiply by the least common denominator. 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 20 is 5. And then 5 times 1x is 5x. Minus 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 20 is 10. 10 times 1 is 10. Equal. 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 20 is 4. 4 times 3x is 12x. Minus, and then 20 times 2 is 40. Okay, so now we're going to bring all the variables one side, all constants to the other, using the addition and subtraction property of equality. So I'm doing steps 2 and 3 now. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring, since 12 is larger than 5, let's go ahead and bring the, and you don't have to, you could have brought it either on the left or the right, does not matter. I'm just going to go ahead and subtract 5x on both sides. So 5x subtract 5x is 0, so 0 to negative 10 is a negative 10, equal 12x subtract 5x, you got to say x, 5x now, subtract 5x is going to be, what's that, 7x minus 40, and then adding 40 to both sides, a negative 10 and 40 is 30, so you get 30 equal 7x, this is 0, and then dividing both sides by 7, I get x to be 30 divided by 7. I cannot reduce that, but if I want to, I can write as a mixed number. 7 goes into 30, what's that, 4 times? 4 times 7 is 28, subtract, you get 2, so it's 4 and 2 sevenths. So 4 and 2 sevenths. Okay? All right, so that's number 3. It's not difficult, fairly simple process. But notice the intent is to clear the fractions so that way you get an equivalent equation that's very manageable to deal with. Okay, number 4. So let's look at number 4. So number 4, let's suppose we had this for number 4. We have 1/4 times x plus 3 minus 1/3 times x plus 2 equals 3. Okay? All right. Now, probably the best thing to do here first, is to go ahead and use a distributive property. That's probably the most efficient way to do this. Let's go ahead and use a distributive property. So I'm going to distribute the 1/4. I'm going to distribute the negative 1/3. Okay? All right. So 1/4 times x is 1/4 x. 1/4 times 3 is 3/4. Okay, now we're going to distribute the negative. Negative 1/3 times x is a negative 1/3 x. A negative 1/3 times 2 is a negative 2/3, equal 3. And so now you can easily determine the least common denominator. So the least common denominator, 4, 4, 3, 3, and that's 3 divided by 1, is going to be 12. So the least common denominator is 12. So notice, though, on the left side there are 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative, positive 1/4 x, 3/4, a negative 1/3 x, and a negative 2/3. So I'm going to put all that in parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this over. I'm just rewriting this over. Now when you rewrite it over, just make sure you're careful. I have many times not been careful, but you got to be careful. All right, so what I do to one side, you multiply both sides by 12 to clear those decimals. I'm sorry, to clear the fractions. So now we're going to do the distributive property again, okay? Because I reintroduce a parentheses. So we got to distribute again. So I get 12 times 1/4 x plus 12 times 3/4 minus 12 times 1/3 x minus 12 times 2/3 equals 3 times 12. Okay? And so let's reduce. Remember, the whole purpose of clearing those fractions is to get all of these numbers down here to be factors of 1. The numbers in the denominators to be factors of 1s. And if you're doing this correctly, you will, because 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 12 is 3. So I get 3 times 1x is 3x. Plus 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 12 is 3, so you get 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 12 is 4, 4 times 1x is 4x. Minus 12 and 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 12 is 4, and you get 4 times 2, which is 8, equal, and then 3 times 12 is 36. All right? Now, combining like terms, so remember, before I do steps 2 and 3, I can still combine like terms, right? So let's combine like terms. 3x and a negative 4x is a negative x. 9 and a negative 8 is a positive 1, equal 36. So now I have, so the solutions to this original equation are equivalent, is the same as the solution to it, because each little part is equivalent. So all these equivalent equations have the same solution. So notice, to find the solution to this equation, it became so much easier just to look at this now. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides and combine like terms. I got negative x equals 35. Now remember what negative x means. Some students still have a little bit difficulty with that. If you need to, think of negative x, or the opposite of x, as negative 1 times x. So rewrite it like this if you have to. So to get x by itself, right now you multiply by negative 1, the opposite is divide by negative 1. And so the negative 1's divide out, 1 times x is x, equal 35 divided by negative 1 is a negative 35. You must write it as negative 35. Don't leave it like this, because it's very easy to indicate what this is. All right, so that's number 4. Okay, it's not difficult at all. Fairly simple process. Okay, so let's look at number 5. So number 5, we have this in number 5. We have x plus 2 divided by 3 plus x plus 7 divided by 12 equal 1. Okay? So x plus 2 divided by 3 plus x plus 7 divided by 12 equal 1. So notice that in the, let me just go to this one. So in number 5, this equation looks totally different than this, because if you look at the terms, the fractional part, let's say the 1/4, let's say, there's only one number up there, right? There's only one term. See, 3/5. There's only one term of that. That's 3. Here you don't see that. You see x plus 2. You see x plus 7. It's okay. You can still deal with this. It's not a difficult process. All right, you can handle this. You still have to find the least common denominator. So if you think about it, what's the least common denominator of 3, 12, and this is 1 down here in the denominator. So that one's easy. That's 12. So notice though, you have two. Technically, if you look at it, you see two terms here, right? So you see two terms. So x plus 2 divided by 3, x plus 7 divided by 12. So we can need this side to be in parentheses. Okay. So watch the process. So let me go ahead and rewrite this over. X plus 2 divided by 3 plus x plus 7 divided by 12 equals 1. So I'm going to multiply this side by 12, and what you do to the left, you do to the right. Okay? So now we can distribute. So 12 times this fraction, and then 12 times this fraction. All right, so let's write it. 12 times x plus 2 divided by 3 plus 12 times x plus 7 divided by 12 equal, and then 1 times 12 is 12. I'm just going to go ahead and indicate what that is. All right, so remember the whole purpose of multiplying by the least common denominator is to get these factors down here to be ones. So 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 12 is 4. 12 and 12 is 1, 12 into 12 is 1. All right, now be careful. Be careful. You got to think about what this is here. So you have two things here. Okay, so I'm going to write it out. You have 4 times, and put it in multiplication here. This right here means 4 times x plus 2, but you got to be careful. You see, all of this is being multiplied by 4. So when you transpose, when you rewrite it, you got to think about what's happening here. All of this numerator is being multiplied by this number. So you got to put this numerator in parentheses, just like I did. Because if you don't, you're going to forget about multiplying this 2 by 4. Okay, so be careful. Over here, same thing. Put that in parentheses, and then we have plus. But that's a 1 right here, right? So 1 times x plus 7. I'm going to go ahead and write it out. 1 times x plus 7. So that way it looks like this one. Equal 12. And now I'm going to distribute the 4 and distribute the 1. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2 is 8. And then 1 times both terms is itself. So x plus 7 equal 12. And so the process you have to think about is this right here. You got to be careful. So you got to put that in parentheses because all of whatever's in that numerator has to be multiplied by this number. So that's why I put parentheses there. And then I use distributive property again. So distributive property is used several times here. Okay, so now we're still in this step 1 here. So now we're going to combine like terms. So 4x and x is 5x. 8 and 7 is 15 equal 12, right? And then now we're going to do steps 2 and 3. So we're going to bring all the constants to one side, all the variables to the other side, using the addition subtraction property of equality. So let's subtract 15 from both sides and combine like terms. 15 negative 15 is 0. I get 5x equals 12 minus 15 is a negative 3. And then to get x by itself, I'm now using step 4. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. The 5's divide out. You get x equal negative 3/5. Okay, and so that's your solution. So negative 3/5. So that's number 5. Okay, let's do one more like this, just to kind of show you what to do. So we're going to do one more, and it's going to be number 6. So let's suppose we had this instead. We had x minus 3 divided by 5 minus, and then x minus 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So let's suppose we had that. Okay? So notice this time we have a subtraction, and the numerators have subtractions as well. So the process is the same, so it's not that difficult. You can handle this. So the least common denominator, 5, 2, and that's 3 divided by 1 is 10, right? So we're going to multiply both sides by 10. So let's put this in parentheses because there are two fractions that you see. So x minus 3 divided by 5 minus x minus 6 divided by 2 in parentheses. We'll multiply that by 10 equal, and then 3 times 10. Okay? So now let's go ahead and distribute. So I get 10 times x minus 3 divided by 5 minus, subtract, 10 times x minus 6 divided by 2 equals, and then 3 times 10 is 30. Let's just go ahead and do that. Now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying by the least common denominator is to get these factors in the denominator to be 1s. And I can because 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 10 is 2. 2 into 2 is 1, 10 divided by 2 is 5. But be careful now at that point, because all of this numerator has to be multiplied by 2. So now put that in parentheses, that numerator. All of this numerator is going to be multiplied by this negative 5, because subtraction means adding the opposite. So that's adding a negative 5. So you can distribute a negative 5. So here's what we have. Rewrite it. You have 2 times x minus 3, just like this, minus 5 times x minus 6, just like this, equals 30. Not difficult. So the solution to this equation is going to be the same as the solution to this one. And this one's a lot more easier to deal with. So now we're going to distribute again, just like this. So 2 times x is 2x, 2 times a negative 3 is a negative 6, a negative 5 times x is a negative 5x, a negative 5 times a negative 6 is a positive 30, equal 30. Okay? All right. Combining like terms. So we're still in that step number 1. We're combining like terms. 2x and a negative 3x, so 2x and a negative 5x is a negative 3x. A negative 6 and a positive 30 is a positive 24, equal 30. This side. All right, so now I'm going to do steps 2 and 3. So I'm going to use the addition and subtraction property of equality to bring the variables to one side, constants to the other. So I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Combine like terms, I get negative 3x equal 30 minus 24 is 6. And then divide both sides by negative 3. I get x to be a negative 2. All right? Now, let's go ahead and check this because that's an integer. I didn't check the others because those were fractions, and it would take in, you would have needed a calculator for that to help you. And that would have taken a little bit longer. But let's go ahead and check x equal negative 2. All right, it's not that bad to check. So the solution to this equation is negative 2. So all these equations have the same solution, which is this one. So that means the original equation should have x equal negative 2 as a solution. So let's check it. So let's just check x equal negative 2. So go back to the original, which is this. All right. And there's the original. So in place of x, I'm going to substitute negative 2. So I get negative 2 minus 3 divided by 5 minus a negative 2 minus 6 divided by 2 equal 3. So in place of these variables, I substitute negative 2. All right, let's look at the numerator. A negative 2 and a negative 3 is a negative 5. So this right here becomes negative 5 divided by 5. Subtract. A negative 2 and a negative 6 is a negative 8. So that's negative 8 divided by 2. And I want to see if that's going to equal 3. Negative 5 divided by 5 is a negative 1. Subtract. A negative 8 divided by 2 is a negative 4, right? And I want to see if that's going to equal 3. Well, remember, subtraction you can always rewrite as an addition problem by adding the opposite. So that becomes negative 1 plus the opposite of 4, which is a positive 4. And notice negative 1 plus 4 is 3, which is what I wanted. Okay? So that's how you can check these. And it's so much easier to check them if those are integers. If those are not integers, fractions, you may want to use your calculator to help you check those. All right, that was number 6. And then I want to do one more. So let's look at number 7. So here's number 7. Let's suppose we had this. We had 2x minus 1 divided by 3 minus x plus 5 divided by, let's say, 4 equal x plus 1 divided by, let's say, 3. All right. And so let's make that 6. I'm sorry. Let's make that 6. Okay. So notice I have I have variables on both sides, and I have these 3 fractions here. This fraction, this fraction, this fraction. So the least common denominator would be, in this case, what's that, 12 again? So 12. So now we're going to multiply both sides by 12. Notice there are 2 fractions here, so I need to put this in parentheses. So let me go ahead and rewrite this problem over. 2x minus 1 divided by 3 minus x plus 5 divided by 4 equal, and then we have x plus 1 divided by 6. All right, so we multiply this side by 12, and we'll multiply this side by 12. Okay? So now we're going to distribute. So 12 times this first fraction, just like this. Okay? Minus 12 times that second fraction. All right, so 12 times x plus 5 divided by 4 equal, and then this one, x plus 1 divided by 6 times 12. Now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD, the whole purpose of clearing the fractions is to get these factors down here to be all factors of 1. And if you're doing this correctly, it will be, because these numbers down here are going to be, well, the LCD will be divisible by those numbers. So 3 into 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Okay? But remember though, this whole numerator has to be multiplied by 4. This numerator has to be multiplied by this negative 3. And this numerator has to be multiplied by 2. All right, so when you rewrite it correctly. So I get 4 times 2x minus 1, that's this right here, minus 3 times this, minus 3 times x plus 5, equal, and then 2 times x plus 1. All right, so now I'm going to use the distributive property again in all those 3 parentheses you see. So 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times a negative 1 is a negative 4. Negative 3 times x is a negative 3x. And negative 3 times a positive 5 is a negative 15, equal 2 times x is 2x, and then 2 times 1 is 2, right? Okay. Combining like terms, 8x and a negative 3x is 5x. A negative 4 and a negative 15 is a negative 19, equal 2x plus 2. Bring the variable. Now notice this is so much easier to deal with now, right? That's a lot easier to find a solution of than the original right here. But the solution to the original will be whatever the solution to this is, because all these are equivalent equations. They have the same solution. So let's go ahead and subtract 2x from both sides. 5x minus 2x is 3x, minus 19 equal, this is 0, 2. Adding 19 to both sides, I get, that's 0, I get 3x equal 19 plus 2 is 21. And then dividing both sides by 3, reducing, I get x to be 7. And so that should be the solution. If I did all this correct, this should be the solution. So let's just quickly check it, just to show you. Let's check this one, because that's an integer. It's so much easier if those are integers to check them. So let's just check it. Let's go back to the original. Here was the original, so we're checking x equal 7. So I'm going to rewrite the original over. So 2x minus 1 divided by 3 minus x plus 5 divided by 4. And I want to see if that's going to equal x plus 1 divided by 6. When I substitute in place of x, I substitute 7. All right, so let's do that. So I get 2 times 7 minus 1 divided by 3 minus 7 plus 5 divided by 4 equal, and then 7 plus 1 divided by 6, right? Okay, so 2 times 7 is 14. 14 minus 1 is 13. So that becomes 13 thirds. Minus 7 plus 5 is 12. So that becomes 12 fourths. And I want to see that's going to equal 7 plus 1, which is 8. I want to see that's going to equal 8/6, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and do it this way. So let's look at the two fractions on this side. So cover this part up. So I have 13 thirds minus 12 fourths. The least common denominator is 12. So I'm going to write equivalent fraction using 12. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. 13 thirds minus 12 fourths. All right, so 12. All right, so remember, I want to write equivalent fractions. 13 thirds is equivalent to what number divided by 12, right? So I'm going to multiply this by 4, because 12 times 4, 3 times 4 is 12. But what I do to the numerator, to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So 13 times 4 will be 52. So that's 52. All right. Then we do the same thing here. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 3, that's going to be what? 36. And so 52 minus 36, these two fractions have the same denominator, so I'm going to write as one fraction. That's 52 minus 36 here. So 52 minus 36, let's see, that's going to be 12 from 6. 6 from 12 is 6. And then what is that, 16? So I get, so this side here is going to be 16 twelfths. So I want to see if 16 twelfths is equivalent to 8/6. That's what I want to see. So this is 8/6. So 16 twelfths reduced, they're both divisible by 2, right? So 16 divided by 2 is 8, and then 12 divided by 2 is 6, and those are equal. All right. So that's how you're going to check these, and it's so much easier to check them if those are integers. All right. So that is the process. Let me get that first page. So that is the process of how you're going to solve linear equations containing fractions.